Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Amirul Hakimi bin Muhammad Suki, and today I will present my research project with title COVID-19 Bankruptcy Faced by SMEs Business in Malaysia. Now I will present the abstract of the research paper. The study aims to study the impacts of COVID-19 pandemic leads bankruptcy to small and medium enterprise, which is SMEs companies in Malaysia. So the research will also study the most suitable method from the Malaysian government on supportive measures for SMEs, as well as the method used by owners of SMEs in the face of the pandemic. In this paper, we can see how the pandemic impacted all SMEs operating in the market and how they overcome the problem in the future. This paper presents a summary of the methodology, which is comprised a qualitative approach undertaken through phone-based interviews with 2 selected SMEs owners throughout the pandemic. And these studies primarily focus in on financial issues, namely the likelihood of bankruptcy. You can see the distinct effects of different types of firms by applying the methods. And the consequences were also debated in Malaysia and one other country. The findings of the paper as per the interview conducted and desktop search, the COVID-19 pandemic very give huge impacts to all SMEs in Malaysia, and only certain SMEs company that can continue as usual during the pandemic. For the next slides, it is chapter 1, which is introduction. The COVID-19 pandemic began in China in 2019 and has since spread around the world. It is one of the worst pandemics since the Spanish flu, with COVID-19 killing 2.31 million people worldwide and still counting, with 500,000 cases recorded per day on average. Furthermore, the governments around the world are still combating this virus with total lockdown measures, and financial assistance is being provided to society in the form of billions of dollars in stimulus packages. However, the world has yet to see the end of this crisis, as vaccination efforts continue in many industrialized countries, including Malaysia, United States, Russia, and Europe. When you see the importance of small and medium-sized enterprise SMEs to the national economy has been well established, as SMEs are considered the most dynamic business in both developed and developing countries. And they are important to large firms, not only in supplying their raw material needs, but also in channeling the goods manufactured by these firms to the target market. SMEs are also very important in Malaysia, where data reveal that 99.2% of all commercial entities are SMEs. Malaysian SMEs have been backbone of an economic growth in propelling industrial development. And SMEs are also the nation's backbone. And Malaysian SMEs continue to play an important role in the country's economy, and this role is growing even more important as the country strives to achieve developed country status by 2020. In the next slide, I will present about the background of the study, which is the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak is a human disaster that affects billions of people worldwide. The pandemic had a negative influence on the world economy, industries, organizations, and SMEs. Since 18 March 2020, Malaysia has been under a restricted lockdown in the form of a series of MCO, Movement Control Order. As a result, the purpose of the study is to examine the actual impacts of the Malaysian COVID-19 through Movement Control Order on SMEs firms and to suggest survival strategies based on replies from SMEs owners. This research believes that the effects of MCO and the strategies are unique to each SME. Malaysia's economy is heavily reliant on SMEs. Small and medium enterprise corporation records 900,000, 7,065 SMEs. In the manufacturing sector, SMEs are defined as enterprise having a sales turnover of less than 50 million or a workforce of less than 200 workers. In the service and other industries, SMEs are defined as business having a sales turnover less than 20 million and fewer than 75 employees. In the next slides, I will tell about the problem statement in the research, which is the first problem statement is the COVID-19 pandemic impacts cannot give SMEs to running their business. Second, the Malaysian government unable to give the best method to support SMEs, and SMEs owners unable to list the good strategies in handling the bankruptcy during the pandemic. And the research question in the research paper is what the impacts of the COVID-19 leads bankruptcy to SME, and second, what is the best method from the Malaysian government to support SMEs, and also what are the strategies from the owners of SMEs facing the pandemic. Now I will go to the chapter 2, which is literature review. I will go one by one the research question. So the first research question is impacts COVID-19 to SMEs in Malaysia. We can see in the article from Muhammad Tahir and Muhammad Ashari 2020, the authors said that a company that has bad cash flow appears to be on the verge of going out of business because cash is required to repay debts, pay disbursements, pay suppliers and staff. And also cash flow management is critical for the survival and future growth of SMEs. Under this research question, we can see the impacts COVID-19 to SMEs in Iraq. We can differentiate between Malaysia and Iraq. We can see the article from Ismail 2021. The author says that states reporting greater COVID-19 instances in Iraq are more likely to have issues exporting products, importing raw materials into a company, and having decreased investment as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The impact of the pandemic of the survival of SMEs is nation such as Iraq is significantly reliant on importation of major commodities in various industries, including agriculture and non-agriculture. When we go to the next slide, which is the next research question, which is the best method for the Malaysian government, we can see the article from Hamdan Kasim and Lai 2020, which is the government of Malaysia announced the Prihatin economic stimulus package in March 2020, which an expected allocation of 3.3 million as an incentive to help small business stay open and cope with rising unemployment. At the same time, in the article of Che Omar Ishak Jusoh 2020, the Malaysian government announced the additional Prihatin SME was 10 million to address the hardship suffered by SMEs as a result of the MCO. The supplementary package is used to help SMEs with cash flow issues. Throughout the new scheme, special salary subsidies ranging from 600 to 1,200 per month were offered in order to maintain SMEs personnel from the next 6 months. A new 2.1 billion funding facility in the form of micro enterprise loan with a maximum amount of 3,000 per qualified company were also announced. And now we go to the next research question, the third research question, which is the best method from the strategies from the owners of SMEs facing the pandemic. We can see in the article of Che Omar Ishak Jusoh 2020, there are two analytical themes of techniques used to keep MCO afloat. during the MCO crisis, the first consideration is financial strategy, which is majority of SMEs have already reduced their debt exposure through capital rationing in asset acquisition and working capital. This is related to their current company approach and their experience with government changes following the 2018 general election. And second, we should consider the marketing plan, despite the fact that half of the respondents' firms are completely shut down, the remaining in price are still open for business. In the term of marketing, two companies are gradually adapting to electronic and social media marketing. As the coronavirus is still not eradicated, it must progressively shift the sales and marketing channels to the online platform immediately. And so we can see in the article of Islam, Jirin, Hafiz, Nimsa, and Wahab 2021, the author said that the study identifies three major digital changes within the business as a result of this pandemic. First, increase in the acceptance level of online service. Second, a massive need to internet service for SMEs. And third, expand connectivity among various categories to industries. At this point, extremely 70% of participants believe that it is critical for SME to use online sales and distribution channels as much as possible in order to meet changing demands of the basis of loyal customer segment, with the main barrier in this regard being a lack of awareness in terms of influence and benefit and adopting new technology. In the next slides, I will present about the chapter 3, which is the chapter 3 explain about the research methodology. First of all, research methodology is the procedure that used to identify and analyze information that has been gathered in order to ensure the validity that can be used to achieve this paper objective. So the research methodologies can be qualitative, like measuring the number of times someone does something under certain condition, or at the same time qualitative, like asking people how they feel about a certain situation. So the internal environment is formed by comprehending and recognizing the appropriate type of research, strategy, philosophy, time horizon, approaches, and procedures and techniques based on the paper research work. Furthermore, the research methodology acts the nerve center because the entire research is bounded by it and to perform. In addition, research philosophy is a concept about how data about the phenomenon should be collected, analyzed, and used. The word epistemology, what is known to be true, as opposed to the doxology, what is believed to be true, incorporates the number study approach philosophy. The goal of science then is to turn what is believed and what is known, those are to experience. There are 4 types of research philosophy. The first type is philosophy is positivism, which is positivists believe that really is stable and that it can be viewed and described objectively. And the second research philosophy is interpretism, which is interpretivists agree that reality can only be fully understood through subjective interpretation and intervention. And yeah, so since this paper research method is interviews, by that this paper research philosophy is interpretivism, which is interpretivism research philosophy is a synonymously with qualitative research, which is qualitative research is a concern with a qualitative phenomenon involving quality. It is non-numerical, descriptive, or reasoning-based, and use words. It goes into understand, feel, and express the event. At the same time, qualitative research is a process of obtaining and identifying or non-numerical data on could be referred as descriptive data, such as interviews, in order to understand the experience and concept of the target audience of a particular topic. In other meaning, we can see that qualitative research method focus on describing individual experience with open-ended questions. So the reason on why this paper choose interpretivism, because these people believe external social force affect the study as much as facts. Other than that, the reason is because this paper want to acquire deep understanding on the study from knowledgeable, and experienced individuals from different industries during the pandemic. And lastly, because this paper chose qualitative research method as the study. When second slide is a methods collecting data, which is one-to-one interviews. One-to-one interviews usually conducted in face-to-face. That's provided the opportunity to interpret non-verbal indicators through observation of the body language, eye contact, and body language, which may help the interviewer understand what is being said. So the interview is conducted in a conversational format, which is driving the agenda in the beginning and the interviewee answering questions at the end. So during the pandemic, it's hard to conduct interview in the face-to-face, but instead of that, the interview will conduct in online platform like video call, Zoom meeting, and Google Meet. The one-to-one interviews is a social interaction between the interviewer and interviewee in paramount importance to make sure that the process is successful. The interview questions include the main question about research question in the paper and also several questions that can collect information related with the research in the paper. The interview was also will be recorded as to get data collected more efficiently and more easily to differentiate with others interviewee. During interview also will use handwritten notes and certain key points can be overlooked by the interviewer. The interview will be conduct not more than 30 minutes using online platform because it just to collect the important data. And the importance of letting the interviewee speak is also significant when conducting one-to-one interviews. The format of interviews is conversational. However, the interviewer does not offer commentary and judgment on the response to the questions, possibly to encourage clarification or elaboration. The use of silence while maintaining good eye contact allows the interviewee to pause and reflect. In some cases, may be effective as a strategy to improve data gathering during the interview process. And why this paper choose interview as the method? Because this paper is the most effective method for qualitative research. Which by this method, this paper can get properly exact information from individuals in different industries that experience during the pandemic, whom it believed will be able to guide in this paper better qualify for of information and explanation. Secondly, this paper also of the opinion that it helps to explore, understand, and explain the topic of research comprehensively. This is because the interview conducted to the target individual that experienced the pandemic, it can get to dive into the environment of the interviewee, making more understand of the whole experience around the research environment and reach the research objectively easily. And thirdly, one-to-one interview is the best method because more clear information to assist in the paper study. This is advantage what can see the interviewee reaction and making eye contact during the interview. From this, it's much easier answering the interview questions in verbally way to and to gauge the accuracy of the answer. So the first step in collecting data of the research is contacting each of the target individual interviewee to set an appointment with them. In order to set an appointment with them, I will prepare a formal letter for permission of interview and also include the purpose of interview, details about a research paper topic, the question that we'll be asking during interview, and also the main objective of this research paper. After send the letter to our individual target to interview, the researcher will wait for the reply from them to continue with next step. So the second step is researcher will prepare a set of questions, which is I will prepare the set of questions that will be asked to the target interviewees. All of our questions will ask one-to-one interview, which will help to gain information and gauge the accuracy of the answer from the target interviewees. And the last step, collect the data is conducting interviews for research. This is to conduct interview face-to-face. I will do an online platform, which is using Zoom meeting or Google Meet. So during the interview in online platform, the researcher, I will use a phone to record the audio of the interview, and also at the same time, we record the Zoom meeting and Google Meet in a laptop. When all material are set up, I will begin the interview with greetings and introduction questions before move forward to the questionnaires. So during the interview, I will give enough space to interviewee answer the questions, because to make sure they can answer comfortably and enough time to elaborate the answer. So after all questions have been asked and answered, I will make the transmission of the interview in the paper that based on the video and audio that have been recorded during the interview in order to help to fulfill the relevant information in the paper. Next, the method to collecting data is secondary data, which is in order to gain more relevant information in this research paper. This paper will conduct the secondary data method. There are two types of secondary data, which is internal and also external. Internal data is information that has been stored and organized by the organization itself. Meanwhile, external data is data organized or collected by someone else. So this method is conducting the research based on the resources like books, personal sources, journals, and newspaper, websites, and secondary data are known to be really available compared to that primary data. It requires very little research and need to manpower to use this source, and with the advent electronic media and internet nowadays. So secondary data source have become more easily accessible. So this paper will avoid from plagiarism, that using someone's work without giving credit or without obtaining permission where necessary. In order to avoid it, this paper will always use quotation marks when producing material from a source text. Now we go to chapter 4, which is the data analysis, which is we can go one by one to the research question. So for the first research question is what are the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is when we see the literature review of the research paper will compare their results. This is made, this is made in order to help this research paper to come out with the answer of the research question after comparing outcome of both parts of research. We can see the answer from the interviewees and also the answer from the article. So for the interviews, there are two respondents that have been interviewed, which is the first respondent is Dr. Muhammad Fakhruddin Abdul Salam, and he's the owner of a veterinary clinic that offered many types of service like treatment, grooming for pets, and boarding for cats. And second respondent is Muhammad Nakib Haziq. He is the owner of a Sagu Healthy that provide desserts like Sagu Gula Melaka. And the first issue discussed is what the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic that leads bankruptcy to small and medium enterprise and SME companies in Malaysia. So during the pandemic, the government of Malaysia issued the MCO that refers to the Prevention and Control Infectious Disease, which is Order 2020, which was issued by Malaysian Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin that time in 16 March 2020 under the Prevention and Control of Infectious Disease Act 1988, after being specified and all state and federal territories in Malaysia are treated with an epidemic of an infectious disease, namely COVID-19. So when we see, however, from the first research question, the first respondent from the interviews said that there are no impacts to the company that are under compulsory sector, which is allowed to operate as usual throughout the MCO, while the second respondent said that all offline platform and stores need to be closed and the business cannot running as usual because people are more using the online platform during the pandemic, even in food industry. Because of the closing, company sales decrease day by day. When we see the article opinion from Ahmad Raflis Cik Omar, Suraya Ishaq, and Muhammad Abdul Wahab Yusof 2020, the authors said that zero income following the MCO's total business lockdown. Because of that, some companies cannot open as usual. The cash flow imbalance occurs because the owners are still required to make mandatory expenditures such as employee salaries, business loans and leasing fees and utilities and other fixed costs. And also in the article of Zun Zeng Yi 2020 said that the author said that MCO has increased e-commerce adoption for SMEs and such as those in the food and beverage industry had reported lower earnings since they are no longer able to capitalize on higher profit margins from beverage and dessert sales. Same as the second respondent that selling dessert reported lower profits since the MCO started. Other businesses that were able to capitalize on favorable revenues due to increased visibility when they create an online presence explain to reserve effect. So the COVID-19 pandemic give huge impacts to SMEs, but not a certain industry like compulsory industry like veterinary service, medical service. For example, the owner of Haiwan Clinic said that there are no impact during the pandemic. And now we go to the second research question, which is what is the best method from the government of Malaysia to SMEs. So we can see the first respondent said that the government of Malaysia should support the local industry, especially when the industry can be exported to the other countries, so that if they could reduce our import dependency in Malaysia, the government of Malaysia also should give many incentives to help the business in promoting their business, which focus on the current way of marketing, like incentive to advertise the product in television, radio, and any billboard. Meanwhile, the second respondent said that the government of Malaysia help all the company giving the funds called Grant Khas Prihatin. For this fund, all the company that registered at the SSM will get 3,000 ringgit from the government, and this will cover that the owner cannot pay during the pandemic. So, according to Nur Hazirah binti Hamdan, which is Salina binti Haji Kasim and PC Lai 2020, the Malaysian government announced the Prihatin Economic Stimulus Package in March 2020 in an expected allocation of 3.3 billion as intended to help small business stay open and cope with rising unemployment. At the same time, based on Ahmad Rafiz Omar 2020, the Malaysian government announced the additional Prihatin SME Economic Stimulus Package Prihatin worth 10 billion to address the hardship suffered by SMEs as a result of the MCO. The supplementary package is to help SMEs with cash flow issues throughout the new scheme. Special salary subsidies ranging from 600 to 1,200 ringgit per month were offered in order to maintain SMEs personnel for the next 6 months. And so the findings, the government of Malaysia really helped all SMEs in Malaysia to survive during the pandemic. Mostly the government give the amount of money to all SMEs using the money to survive and pay all debts. Basically, what have been given by the government not really help 100%, but it helped in order the company to survive. The last research question is what are the strategies from the owners of SMEs facing the pandemic? So the third issue discussed on what the strategies from the owners of SMEs facing the pandemic. The first respondent said that the strategies are focused on the promotion of our business, like the respondent focused on his clinic, especially on his new branch that he launched during MCO, where it need more promotion to attract new customer in new era. So firstly, maybe give discount to the service provided. Secondly, do Facebook, Instagram page, saying the best way to promote the business is 21st century is by using social media. And lastly, specifically for his new branch of Klinik Haiwan Cawangan in Pasir Mas, he does a lot of banners to promote the business in the area. Meanwhile, the second respondent said that the strategies by change from online offline platform to online platform. For example, starting manage the social media like Facebook, Instagram, and many more by collecting the database and also make the sales from it. So the strategy is provide promotion to all customers. From this, all customers love to buy the product with a discount price. From that, it can manage to collect back all the customers. So the second strategy is to do a lot of marketing in social media, because we know that everyone are using the social media during the lockdown. So from that, it can manage to find new customers and increase the customers. So we can see the article from Ahmad Rafiz Omar Ishaq said that the first consideration is a financial strategy. The majority of SMEs had already reduced their debt exposure through capital raising in asset appreciation and working capital. This is related to their current company approach and the experience with the government changes following the 2018 general election. And second, consider the marketing plan. Despite the fact that half of the firms are completely shut down, the remaining enterprises are still open for business. In terms of marketing, try to adapting the electronic and social media marketing, as the coronavirus is not irrigated. It must progressively shift the sales and marketing channels to the online platform immediately. And in the article of Wun Jianyi 2020, SMEs develop cash reserve when an opportunity arises. This will allow them to protect their business during bad times. They avoid over investing and expanding and purchasing big assets like as real estate, which are difficult to unload during difficult times. Instead of relying on a single group of clients, the customer base should be diverse. So foreign exchange hedging is often used by SME that trade could be managed. We can see that strategies are very important when anything happens to the company. The strategies are basically for current situation and also the future. So during the pandemic, everyone are stay at home and all business can continue as usual. The most suitable strategy is by using online platform. All SMEs owners need to start an online strategy when managing the customers, find new customers, do marketing and manage the financial. So in conclusion, the literature review and the finding of interviews provide different results. From the argument produced by both findings, interviews and articles, it can say that both of them provide great points of their stance on the issue. These people believe in order to answer the research question, the argument of both findings shall be analyzed in order to give the best answer. Now we go to the chapter 5, which is the conclusion. So we can see the conclusions. The pandemic of COVID-19 very give huge impact to all SMEs in Malaysia, and only certain companies can continue their business as usual. Most important industries like veterinary, healthcare industry are not really affected by this pandemic. This is because people are still using their service during the pandemic. The impact are focused on the company's financial problem like handling cash flow. The impact also focus on risk of bankruptcy of the company, problems in foresighting the future business direction, low profits every month. A lot of packages have been provided by the government of Malaysia to SMEs, but it's not actually 100% can help them, and it's only to make they can survive during the pandemic. Most of the packages provided are the pandemic. Most of provide money from the government to give them. And all SMEs must prepare with strategies from current situation and also for future. This is because the government declared that the COVID-19 as endemic, which is the COVID-19 never ending. So the best strategies from the interviewees and also the articles, we can see that online platform is the best strategy to use in order to survive the pandemic, since people cannot go out often. And the next slide, I will recommendation, which is the recommendation. I recommend that the government of Malaysia should support small business with give them funds every year to make sure that they can continue their business. This is because small business owners do not have enough money to survive and different with big company. So the strategies must be applied and need to be changed every year by SMEs owner. So this strategy must be start with an online platform. We start using a social media to promote businesses, for example, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and many more. So the business owner need to aware with the trend, what the customer most wanted in the future and the current situation. So all business owner of SME, and next, all business owner and SME need to register with SSM to make sure that they can get funds and helps from the government. If they're not registered SSM, they can get what we give by the government and help from the government. Now I will present about the limitation in the research paper. So however, this research paper have several limitations. The first limitation is this: our government have endorsed a movement control order because the global pandemic COVID-19. So by that, unable to interview more interviewees with face-to-face, because as you know that we can get more clear information if using face-to-face interview. Because of that, this paper only used online platform to interview and not enough information got. Furthermore, the second limitation is not get enough data since cannot visit and ask the business owner due to the COVID-19, because it can get clear and more information when asked random business owner. Because of that, this paper unable to get more interviewees to share experience and strategies during the pandemic. And last, the third limitation in the study is not enough to collect data due to a lot of assignment, submission, and presentation. To conclude, these limitations have given an impact for me to gather the data, to analyze the findings, and to discuss the study in order to achieve the research objective and to answer the study's questions. And that's all from me for the presentation of my research paper and research project. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.